Okay, we're going to pause today and take a look at some of the Celtic players who aren't playing for Celtic this season. What the hell are you talking about, Hamish? Well, every single season, Celtic send players out on loan to other clubs to get them game time and hopefully shape them for seasons to come. Celtic currently have at least 8 first-team players out on loan, but we're not too interested in the likes of Ewan Henderson and Lee Griffiths, who just don't have a future at the club. So in this video, we're going to hear about 3 Celtic players currently out on loan in the English Football League, or the EFL. First up is Scott Robertson, who's on loan at Crewe Alexandra this season. We wanted to find out how he was doing, so we caught up with Steve Hatton from the Railwaymen Podcast, specialising in all things Crewe Alexandra. I started by asking Steve to set the scene for us with regards to Crewe's position.
We got promoted in the COVID season, and then last season we had a really good season in League One. We had a host of really good young players that have come through the academy. Unfortunately, we sold them all last season. One went during the season, Harry Pickering. We lost Perry NG to Cardiff. Charlie Kirk went to Charlton. We lost Owen Dale to Blackpool. So the core, Ryan Wintle, crucially went to Cardiff as well. So the core of the team that was so successful was basically ripped out of the squad. And the manager had to rebuild in the summer. We signed a lad from Scotland, Scott Hoban, from I think it was Aberdeen. He retired without playing a game for us on the eve of the season.
It's just what Crewe does to people.
Absolutely. Well, it gets better because we signed another guy, Sean McDonald, midfielder. He played about 3 games, and then about 4 games into the season, he retired. So it was the worst ever pre-season, and we've been riddled by injuries. And when Scott Robertson joined, he was just part of a kind of plethora of, retrospectively now, what looks like a supermarket sweep of loans and people that were available at that point in time, because there were so many gaps in our squad. So which is probably why we've gone from, sniffing around the playoffs last year to being adrift in League One this season, to be honest.
And in terms of Robertson, it's his 3rd loan spell away from Celtic. He was at Gillingham for half of last season. He was at Doncaster for the other half. How has he done overall at Crewe?
I think he has, to me, he's been probably one of the most impressive acquisitions that we've got this season. If I'm honest, we're setting the bar pretty low there because most of our new acquisitions have been pretty dreadful, but he's been the pick of them, particularly initially when he arrived. He was head and shoulders to me above everybody else. And his form did, I think when you're playing in a team that's losing every week and confidence is low and he's only a young lad, his form did peter out a little bit. But he's showing signs now he's back in the team of maybe getting back to where he was when we first signed him.
We've not actually seen a lot of Robertson. I think he's only really started 1 game for us, and it was a dead rubber Europa League game a few years ago against Cluj, a Romanian side. I was actually at that game in Romania, funnily enough, and he was pretty good that night. I liked the way he took the ball in and quite calm in possession, took care of the ball. But what is he good at? Like, what kind of player is he? Because we don't really know yet.
I think, to me, looking at him, he can do a bit of everything. He likes to tackle. Like you say, I think he's good in possession. He can beat a man. He's strong on the ball. He's competitive. He can pick a pass as well. And he can pop up, as he showed in the week. He pinged that one in from 35 yards. And I think he is a goal threat as well. So to me, he's kind of an all-round midfielder, really. I wouldn't say he's like an attacking midfielder who gets in the box late. He just seems to do a bit of everything. And you could probably play him at the base of the midfield in a more defensive role. You could probably push him a bit further forward. He came on at Burton on New Year's Day in our latest embarrassment, and he played left wing back for the last 20 minutes. So I do think he's got a bit of everything, and probably as he matures and gets older, whoever he ends up might need to find the kind of fixed position in midfield for him to play in, if you like, because to me he's like a jack of all trades and can do a little bit of everything in that position.
So we play like a midfield three with one player sitting, usually Callum McGregor, and then a couple of more creative players. I'm assuming he'd be more of the one in front, maybe kind of box to box type thing. But I suppose if you're saying he could play anywhere,
I would say so, and he's done that more for us. We've got other people who've sort of done that sitting role, and he's always played in a three for us, be it a 4-3-3 or a 5-3-2. He's always played in that box to box role. And after his first few games, I likened him. And again, I didn't really realise the coincidence that I'd said it. I'm old enough to have seen young Neil Lennon in his pomp for us before he got the move to Leicester. And to me, his bustling movement on the ball and the way he can sort of bustle past people. I mean, he's not blessed with great pace, but he can beat a man. He just reminded me of the young Lennon that I used to see before he got his big move to Leicester. So I think definitely box to box to me would be his probably best position.
and you're right in saying he scored a couple of belters this season. One very recently that was an absolute cracker.
Yeah. The 2 minutes either side of the goal were quite interesting because he scored that 35-yarder that, I mean, you could argue maybe the keeper could have done a bit better, but it was a great hit, and he's got that ability. But then we went down the other end, and I think he showed to me what's been his biggest fault with us, which is he's clearly a very confident young fella. He's got lots of belief in his own ability, and not for the first time, he was a bit overconfident. The ball dropped to him on the edge of the area, and he shielded it, and rather than taking the percentage option of lumping it down the line, he tried to turn and take the ball past his man on the edge of the area. Someone came in, nicked it off his toes, put it out to the right, and Rotherham scored their third goal from that.
Okay.
So I think at times he's been guilty of overplaying a little bit for me and trying to do too much. But I think he's been trying to compensate maybe for the deficiencies around him because he's playing in a team with no confidence. And I think what we liked about him is he's only on loan, and a lot of other players we've signed on loan and on one-year contracts haven't looked up for the fight, but he has been totally committed and totally up for the fight. And even when his form's dipped, he has given everything for the cause, and no one could doubt his commitment.
And obviously from a Celtic point of view, the people watching this, you'll hate me saying this, but we are more than happy for him to make those mistakes at Crewe. Make those mistakes of trying to play out when you shouldn't, and learn from it when you come back to us. It's kind of why loan spells happen. We had a guy, Christopher Ayer, who's now at Brentford, that went out on loan to Kilmarnock a few years ago, and I watched one of their games, and he did basically the same thing. He was a centre back, and he tried to beat an attacker, lost it, and I think it was Aberdeen scored. And I was watching it and I was just thinking, right, that's not great, but I'm more than happy for him to do that on loan because he'll learn from it. And from a selfish Celtic point of view, it's not damaging us in any way. But obviously from a Crewe point of view, you'd rather that didn't happen. Can I ask you about an unfortunate incident that happened against Bolton when he got retrospectively banned and missed a few games? What was that whole thing about? I wasn't at the game, but I watched it on iFollow, and the camera didn't actually catch it. It was probably one of the low points of our season. We lost 2-0. We were gutless, probably apart from him. We rolled over and died. It was easy for a Bolton team. We're low on confidence. And apparently off the ball, he stamped or kicked a Bolton player. I think they'd had a bit of a niggle beforehand, and again, I've not seen any replays, but he kicked him or stamped on him, and that was a 3-game ban, and that was really the end of him being a first choice for a while because he got the ban, and then he picked up an injury, and his form had tailed off before that game, so he's only really been back in the squad the last couple of games, and obviously he got a start in the pizza game in the week when we changed things around. Interesting, and again, it comes back to what he's going to learn from that. Is he liked by Crewe fans overall?
I think he is. I do think he is. There's been a lot of cynicism towards some of the loans we've got, and some of the one-year contract players whose heart doesn't seem to be in it. And there's been, obviously, we've got a lot of trust and faith in our academy, and there's been a lot of talk of just play our kids. Why are we helping other teams' kids out? But I think he's been the exception, and I've heard most people talk really positively about him and recognise his commitment and his ability, even though again he went a bit off the boil just prior to that Bolton game.
Yeah, and final question, and it may be a difficult one for you because you don't know too much about Celtic. Do you think he's a guy who's ready to make an impact at Celtic next season, or is he maybe another loan spell away from being a first team player?
It's a difficult one. I mean, it's difficult to judge because he's played for us in a losing team, a team that's got no confidence, a team that essentially were strangers in the early part of it. But he's shown enough to me to think, actually, if you put him in a better team with better players and more quality around him, I think he'd thrive. And I think if Celtic threw him in, I think he might surprise a few people. And like I said earlier, I think his mistakes he's made of us has been trying to do too much because he's that committed and he's trying to take on more responsibility. And maybe he wouldn't have that pressure on him in a Celtic team where he's probably got, well, not probably, he's definitely got more quality around him.
Interesting. Final question. Are Crewe going to stay up this year?
No.
Really?
No, I just think that the teams, we had a glimmer of hope when we beat Morecambe, but we just got hopelessly outclassed by a ruthlessly efficient Burton team. And I just think there's been too much upheaval. Well, I think we've got to keep our youngsters and maybe mount a charge next year to come back out of League Two.
So Steve, not too positive about Crewe's chances at the end there, but very, very happy with the impact Scott Robertson has had at his club this season. And on the subject of League Two, let's find out about another couple of players that Celtic have out on loan this season. Both of these guys are on loan at Tranmere Rovers. I'm talking about goalkeeper Ross Doohan and defender / midfielder, but we'll explain that in a minute, Lee O'Connor. They're both working under Mickey Mellon, or Michael Mellon, as he's known on a Sunday, who managed Dundee United last season, you may remember. I caught up with Paul from the This Is Tranmere Podcast. Rovers are having a good campaign this year in League Two, so I started by asking Paul whether promotion could be on the cards.
We're doing all right. We've definitely got better as the season's gone on. Started a bit slow. Didn't score too many goals at the beginning, and we're starting to find our feet a bit more, and I think we're sitting second in the table, so yeah, so far so good. Good
stuff. My next question is quite simply, who has made the bigger impact this season, Doohan or O'Connor?
I'd say Doohan, really. Yeah, I mean, he started off on the bench, and I know a few Scottish journalists were posting articles about, you know, why is he not even playing? We started the season with Joe Murphy in goal, who, for Celtic fans who don't know, he was with us as a youth 20 odd years ago.
Wow.
I think he's 41.
Wow.
Veteran goalkeeper, but he did really well first 6 or 7 games of the season. Then he picked up an injury, and that's when Doohan got his chance. And since then, he's made the spot his own and has done really well. I rate him very highly. I would say at the moment he's too good for League Two, but you know, hopefully he'll stay in League Two for the rest of the season to help us get out of it. But yeah, he's done really well. He commands his area well. Big, strong sort of presence in between the sticks, which I think is always a good thing. Yeah, good handling, good distribution. I think you can tell he's come from a club that's well coached, and you know, he's comfortable with the ball at his feet. And often at our level, you get goalkeepers who are good shot stoppers, but not much else. He's really a well-rounded goalkeeper, I'd say. Definitely one to look out for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, 9 clean sheets this season. That's the highest clean sheet percentage for a keeper who's played 10 or more games. How much of that is down to him, and how much is down to the rest of the defence?
We do have a good defence, to be fair. Yeah, defensively we've been really strong. I mean, I think we've conceded the fewest goals in definitely the EFL, maybe in English football altogether.
Wow.
Very miserly defence, albeit we went out of the FA Cup by conceding a few goals. But in the league, we've been really tight defensively. We've got Peter Clark, who's another golden oldie at 40 years old, marshalling the defence. Really strong presence at the back. So yeah, as a team, we've generally defended quite well. Bodies on the line, but when he's called upon, Doohan has made some really good saves, and I think he marshals the defence quite well. Albeit he's a young goalkeeper, and he's come into the side and obviously didn't know the players that were in front of him, but he seems to have adapted really well, really quickly. And as I say, organisationally, the back four and the goalkeeper have looked really solid all through the season so far, and that's huge credit to him, especially at the age he is, to have come in, different country, different probably a different style of football, I'd say, to probably what he's been used to, and I think he's adapted really well. Been really, really, really impressed with him.
Yeah, I remember watching him at a previous loan club, Ayr United, who are my local team. So I went down a couple of times and watched him. And one thing I did notice was his kicking at that stage was a little bit of a weak point. A few kicks would come to him and he'd maybe scuff them along the ground. Is that something that you think's improved then? Because you did mention his distribution's been quite good this season.
Yeah, I think it is sort of the modern goalkeeper, isn't it? You've got to be comfortable with the ball at your feet. Albeit we play in League Two, and there's often stereotypes from people that don't watch much lower league football, especially sort of English lower league, is that it's all long ball and route one. But we do actually try and play out from the back, in our own little way. But yeah, we've got players in front of him who are comfortable on the ball, so his distribution has been good. As I say, we do like to play from the back, so there is a few risks to be taken sometimes, but I've not had any issues with his distributions. Some of the goalkeepers we've had down the years have been some of those where as soon as he gets the ball at his feet, it's going to land on your lap in the stands. So he's definitely not one of those. He's used the ball well. I've got no issues with his handling, his shot stopping, his kicking. I think he's an all round really good prospect. Someone who can only get better really for the more and more games he plays. Good
to hear. He's out of contract in the summer. Will Tranmere be interested in signing him permanently, do you think? Or do you think he could make it at Celtic?
Be an interesting one. Obviously, it would depend a lot on, do Tranmere get promoted and move up a division? What the financial situation at the club is like? Who else is available? All that kind of stuff. But yeah, from his point of view, I would be trusting my ability and. Albeit, Celtic are a massive club and we've got good quality players in the first team already, but I think he's definitely one that, obviously, the difficult thing with goalkeepers is that A, there's only one position for him to fight for, and B, often managers don't really trust young goalkeepers. And I know down the years we've had, good prospect goalkeepers, and we brought in a loan, an experienced guy, who comes in and you know exactly what you're going to expect from him. But if you take a chance on this kid, I think he is good enough. I would. My advice to him, but obviously I would want him to stay. Yeah. But fight for your place at Celtic, and if you've got ambitions to play at the top level, then Celtic is probably the best place for him to start.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a good point there, the fact that it is just one position you're going for. And even if we sell the Greek goalkeeper Vasilis Barkas, who we paid $5 million for last year, you've still got Joe Hart, Scott Bain, Connor Hazard and possibly even Toby Oluwayemi, who's an England under-19 goalkeeper, ahead of him. So there's a lot of bodies for him to get through to get to that position. So, but it sounds like you've got a positive report for him. What about Lee O'Connor, a guy you've seen more often because he was on loan at Tranmere last season as well? How's he got on kind of over that overall kind of loan period?
I'd say last season was a lot better.
Right.
He kind of had a stable position in the side. He was playing at right back, and really made the position his own. Sort of solid, no nonsense sort of type fullback. I wouldn't say he's spectacular or particularly skillful, but he did that defensive side of the job really well. This season we've not seen as much of him. We've brought in another right fullback who's been really good, to be fair, Josh Cogley, who offers a massive amount of pace, which is something that O'Connor doesn't really have. And the formation and the system that we play, a bombing on fullback is something that is quite key to add a bit of width. And O'Connor doesn't really bring that pace. This other lad does. So we've seen O'Connor in the heart of midfield, sort of just that sort of quarterback sitting midfielder, and he's not been in the side on a regular basis, but he's come in over the last sort of month or so in that sort of sitting midfield role and has done well. On Saturday he was outstanding, to be fair. Other occasions he's been a bit quiet and not as good. But he's definitely someone who's good on the ball, an intelligent footballer, uses the ball well. But it's one of them where he might be one of those typecast as a utility player. Is he a fullback? Is he a midfielder? Is he, he's even played centre half, which I wouldn't advise him to play ever again, to be fair. He did not do well that day. But he's one of them that could probably play on the other side, left back. He's one of them where what is his position, and we've down the years watching football, you see players who can, they're good squad players because they can fill in a number of roles, and managers like that, especially when all the stuff that's going on with COVID. It's good to have somebody who can fill in different positions, and when you get injuries and stuff. But that can also sort of set him back a little bit, as in he doesn't know what his settled position is going to be in the side. I would say probably more suited in the right back role, but as I say, he was very good on Saturday, to be fair, and can play that role. Whether that's what he sort of takes forward, I'm not sure what plans Celtic might have for him, but certainly for the foreseeable, he seems to be claiming his place in the centre of midfield.
Really interesting. I think he was a centre back when we actually signed him from Manchester United, although that was in development team level, and you're not up against maybe more physical strikers. I think it's a different game when you're playing professionally. Tranmere actually tweeted recently a Lee O'Connor appreciation tweet. He's absolutely everywhere, which I think just kind of sums up exactly what you were saying there. But holding midfield are interesting, because I'd always thought of him as a right back. But being honest, we've got two pretty good right backs at the moment. It's gone from being our worst position to probably our best one. We've got the Croatian right back, Josip Juranovic, and we've got Anthony Ralston, who's a guy we'd all written off and has become potentially the player of the season so far, or one of them. So I think he's kind of got his work cut out getting in the Celtic team. Tranmere fans kind of keen to see him maybe come to the club permanently again. Yeah,
it's one of them. He did well last season, and as I say, he's coming into a bit of form now. And yeah, that's probably an area we are quite weak in, that heart of midfield. And if he can sort of develop that kind of side of the role, that tweet that they put out, he was sort of box to box and getting about the pitch. So he is a athletic sort of player. As I say, he doesn't have a great deal of pace, but he's got energy, and willingness to break forward and obviously track back with his defensive tendencies anyway. But I think none of us would grumble if he did sign. But as I say, it's one of them where are we signing him to cover a number of positions, and whether he makes that centre midfield role his own is one to be seen. But he's definitely a talented player. Obviously, he's been with the Irish under-21s, missed a couple of games for us, so he's got decent experience as well.
So a decent verdict there from Paul for both Ross Doohan and Lee O'Connor. Paul was from the This Is Tranmere Podcast, and Steve, who you heard from earlier, is from the Railwaymen Podcast. I'm going to link both of those shows below in the description. Definitely check them out. I dare say the three Celtic players come up regularly. Thanks to both guys for giving up some of their time to chat to me. I hope they both have good ends to the season and have some sort of joy in their life come May, as hopefully we do as well. Thanks to you for tuning in to watch this episode. I hope you've learned a bit about the three players in question, and we'll speak to you soon.